What has been the most badass stuff done by real people in history? 1. Leonid Rogozov had to perform an appendectomy on himself while overwintering in the Antarctic. 2. Napoleon Bonaparte coming back from Elba, meeting up with the 5th Regiment of Infantry, sent from Paris to kill him. Steps off his horse with no weapon, walks towards the regiment, and shouts, "Soldiers, recognize your emperor. If any of you wants to kill me, here I am." The soldiers drop their weapons and send their hats flying, shouting glory to the emperor. This has got to be the most insane natural 20 on a charisma check in history. 3. British pilot in World War I was flying a scouting mission when he was attacked by 7 German planes. On the first pass, his leg was blown off by the German planes, but he managed to move the plane so his rear gunner could fire on the German fighters. They managed to drive off all 7. The pilot managed to land the plane despite rapidly losing blood and insisted that he delivered his reconnaissance report before receiving medical attention. His back gunner had no idea he'd lost his leg until they landed. The pilot won the Victoria Cross for his actions. Edit. The pilot's name was Ferdinand West. He survived the war and lived until 1988. 4. Look up Joe Medicine Crow. He was the last war chief of the Crow tribe and the last Plains Indian war chief. During World War II, Joe Medicine Crow completed all 4 tasks required to become a war chief: touching an enemy without killing him, taking an enemy's weapon, leading a successful war party, and stealing an enemy's horse. 5. On October 14, 1912, Theodore Roosevelt was planning on giving a speech. He started by saying, "Friends, I shall ask you to be as quiet as possible." He was then shot. "I don't know whether you fully understand that I have just been shot," Roosevelt continues. Much to the crowd's shock, Roosevelt unbuttons his bloodstained shirt. "It takes more than that to kill a bull moose," Roosevelt assures the crowd. Roosevelt takes his speech papers out of his coat pocket. There was a bullet hole straight through all 50 pages. The papers had saved his life. Luckily for his speech, Roosevelt had a self-claimed photographic memory. He went on to give a 90-minute speech even though his aides insisted that he go to a hospital. Only with the speech completed did he agree to visit the hospital. He was 53 at the time. What a badass. 6. Franz Stigler, who upon coming upon a defenseless and battered B-17, not only couldn't bring himself to shoot them down, but he escorted the American crew all the way to the English Channel. Along the way he warded off other German fighters and flew close enough to the aircraft that German AA wouldn't open fire on it. The crew survived the encounter and Stigler turned around and returned to his base once they left German airspace. 7. Robert Smalls, a slave who stole a Confederate ship out of Charleston Harbor and turned it over to the Union, who in turn made him a pilot of one of their ships. Total badass. 8. John Barcelone, World War II legend who held off an entire platoon with a single machine gun. 9. In 75 BC, a band of Cilician pirates in the Aegean Sea captured a 25-year-old Roman nobleman named Julius Caesar, who had been on his way to study oratory in Rhodes. As the story is related in Plutarch's Parallel Lives, the capture was a minor inconvenience for Caesar, but very bad luck for the pirates. From the start, Caesar simply refused to behave like a captive. When the pirates told him that they had set his ransom at the sum of 20 talents, he laughed at them for not knowing who it was they had captured and suggested that 50 talents would be a more appropriate amount. He then sent his entourage out to gather the money and settled in for a period of captivity. The pirates must have been dumbfounded. It's not every day that a hostage negotiates his ransom up. Caesar made himself at home among the pirates, bossing them around and shushing them when he wanted to sleep. He made them listen to the speeches and poems that he was composing in his unanticipated downtime, and berated them as illiterates if they weren't sufficiently impressed. He would participate in the pirates' games and exercises, but he always addressed them as if he were the commander and they were his subordinates. From time to time, he would threaten to have them all crucified. They took it as a joke from their overconfident, slightly nutty captive. It wasn't a joke. After 38 days, the ransom was delivered and Caesar went free. Astonishingly, Caesar managed to raise a naval force in Miletus, despite holding no public or military office, and he set out in pursuit of the pirates. He found them still camped at the island where he had been held, and he brought them back as his captives. When the governor of Asia seemed to vacillate about punishing them, Caesar went to the prison where they were being held and had them all crucified. 10. After multiple failed assassination attempts by the Soviets, Josip Broz Tito sent a letter to Stalin saying, "Stop sending people to kill me, we've already captured 5 of them, one of them with a bomb and another with a rifle. If you don't stop sending killers, I'll send one to Moscow, and I won't have to send a second one." There was no further attempts. 11. Isabella of France held off an army with herself, her maids, and anyone else who remained in the castle she was holed up in after her husband the King of England ran off with his lover, returned home to France, and then came back with an army to install her son on the throne instead. 12. Shackleton Expedition, Justine Saint Endurance and Fortitude to come back alive. 13. Boudica. Her husband was one of the most powerful chieftains in Britain, and in a lie of the Rome, he died without a male heir, so made his daughters his heir. Local Roman authorities ignored it, burned his village and proceeded to Great Pan flout Boudica and her 2 daughters, figuring what was a woman gonna do? Well, she rallied her tribe, banned most of the locals, raised an army of tens of thousands and proceeded to burn London and most of the Roman centers of power on the island to the ground. 14. Vasily Arkhipov, who was a Soviet naval officer. He was the only one in a 3-man nuclear submarine to stand and revoke the decision of nuclear submarine from launching a nuclear bomb towards a U.S. ship that could have caused a potential nuclear war. 15. To Battle of Stamford Bridge, September 1066 in Yorkshire, England. Sagas have been sung praising the berserker who fended off 40 Englishmen before falling to a spearman below the bridge. This event marked the end of the Viking Age, but the bravery of this warrior has not been forgotten. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss out on more daily Reddit stories in the future.